recording. Okay. So of course, when we launch Blender, and we're inside a Blender, usually a good idea, right, to go to modeling workspace. Just gives us a little more focused interface for modeling. We don't have the animation toolbar at the bottom. Remember, we do like to go up to the outliner up here and just turn the eyeballs off for camera and light so we don't see them in the viewport. We'll want them later on for when we do lighting and rendering, but we don't really want to see them now, right? We don't really want to see them now. All right, so that gives us kind of our quick normal starting point. Now, keep in mind that for this object, right, we're making a spaceship, and I want it to be more curved. So you saw the other day, as we did like a dry run for it, I wanted to actually kind of create these like cylindrical energy engines, right? Kind of almost like a drone would have, except not propellers. Although we'd probably put some propeller-like stuff on it just to show you some neat stuff with cursors and spin duplicate, right? But I don't really want the cube for this one right now, right? So remember, if you go to 4, right, 4 for object mode, remember this is industry-compatible stuff, right? If I go to Edit Preferences, Key Map, and I make sure to pull down to industry-compatible, things like 1, 2, 3, 4 will work. Alt left mouse button for camera rotate, right? Monday's quiz, yesterday's quiz. Alt middle mouse button for move. Remember, you can press your middle mouse button down, the scroll wheel. You can press it down like a button. Obviously, it works like a scroll wheel too, but, right? Alt left, alt middle. Remember, today's quiz is alt middle mouse button, right? Alt middle mouse button. But remember, 4 is object mode. Although remember, you have your modes up here, right? Edit mode, object mode. And of course, with this object selected, right, it's got that orange outline, I can hit delete, right? Delete on the keyboard, and that will get rid of that cube object. I want to go add a new object, right? So I'm going to go to add, mesh, and I want to add a cylinder, right? Add, mesh, cylinder. And that creates this cylinder here. Remember, there is this little guy right down here. Now that I'm back here, finally, I can see that you guys can actually see the whole monitor even there, which is good. Except for you guys that are pointing in the wrong direction, but that's kind of the way the class is set up. So, good thing I record videos and do a lot of review lecture, right? So we can click on the Add Cylinder button right here, right? We can click on that Add Cylinder button right there. And that opens this up. Because I don't want my cylinder to be so dense, right? I just don't want that cylinder to be so dense. So what I can do is I can go to vertices, the very top of that. And I think 12 would be better for us, right? Something much lower. Enough to still give us a good amount of border edges to work with, but not too nuts, right? I can hit Enter. And there we go. And we see we've got a nice little cylinder here for us. If you want, you can close that down, right? That doesn't have to be open. Now, I want to move this over, right? Because when it comes down to it, I want to have a mirror modifier on for this, right? So we just, went add, mesh, cylinder. I made sure to bring up the add cylinder option so I could change the vertices to be lower, right? 32 is a little dense, right? So we kind of want to do 12, right, to make it easier for us. All right. Now remember, it's better, in my opinion, to move these in edit mode, right? That way your center, that little orange dot right there, stays on the center of the world. That way things like your mirror modifier will work better. If for whatever reason you move the object off, right, you can always go to Object, Apply, All Transforms, and I'll kind of reset it, right? But for me, I'll hit 3 for face mode, right? 3 for faces. Remember, it's one of your edit modes, right? Remember, the modes are right there, but we know from our final or mini quizzes, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 3 is face mode. W is move, of course, right? W is move, but remember, they are right here in the interface. Move, rotate, scale. And of course, I could grab on one of the handles, right? The arrows. So if I just left-click drag on the red, I can move that out over. I don't want this to be quite so tall, so I can hit R for scale, right? R for scale. And I can always just left-click drag on the blue handle just to make it smaller. Right? Stuff we've played with before for our previous projects. Right? We've done these plenty of times. guess what? We're going to get more practice here. Remember, you can left-click drag on these handles to, use them just in one direction. Now remember, the white circle on the outside is uniform scale. It'll scale all directions. Middle mouse button does that, though. So middle mouse button is actually your shortcut for that. So R for scale, so I could scale it down and make it thinner. Maybe make it a little bigger by grabbing on the white circle. Or just middle mouse button, right? Hold down middle mouse button. Now, I want to move this forward, so W for move. I can move it on the green, or we could view move it, right? That white circle there is view move. Middle mouse button also does view move. So see how I'm moving this in edit mode, right? 3 for face mode, although at this point it won't really matter if it's vertex, edge, or face. But in this case, we're in 3 for face mode. All the faces are selected. Remember, select all. There is a select all if it doesn't have all of them selected. Select all. I can just hit E for rotate. Rotate a little bit that direction. Remember, there is a view rotate, that white circle on the outside. We haven't used this as much because it's not something we really use that much on our environment pieces because we didn't need it that much for our furniture. But on a spaceship, it's going to have a lot more curved form. So feel free to kind of use your view rotate more, right? Middle mouse button, just like middle mouse button will do uniform scale, and view move, it does view rotate. So the white circle, whatever, if it's move, rotate, or scale, middle mouse button will do it. And you can even just left-click drag in the center of your rotate to kind of do a more free rotate. I'm just kind of moving it there. Now, I want another one back here. I want 2 of these engines, right? Actually, I want a total of 4, but 2 to start us off for today, right? Remember, in the mesh menu is duplicate. We've seen this tool before, right? Particularly when we were working on doing some of our stuff on our table and our chair, although we even saw it with our Boolean stuff. That is Control D. So that's a default quick key, Control D. Now, the moment I duplicate it, you can free move it, right? So I just move my cursor, then left click to finalize it. And of course, if I want middle mouse button, can do view move. Remember, view move and view rotate are based off of the camera itself, so it's moving it along the camera. So I can do E for rotate, middle mouse button to kind of do view rotate here, maybe a little bit there. Instead, we're just kind of getting 2 engines kind of roughly at slight angles. This doesn't have to be a spaceship that flies in space. It could be more of a futuristic. We're using spaceship in a very generic term as any futuristic flying craft, right? This could be a future version of an airplane, really, but like a hover plane or something like that, right? But spaceship works, right? So this was just a cylinder I created, right? Add cylinder. I then just used move, rotate, and scale on the polygon selected. And you can use the view options here finally, which are the white circles, but that's also middle mouse button. And of course I did a duplicate, right? Mesh duplicate to copy that original. Now, we have our auto mirror, but I'm not going to worry about that for right now because we don't really need it for this one. So we can just go to add modifier, right? Remember, that's in our blue wrench. Add modifier, mirror, right? Add modifier, mirror. We've seen this plenty of times. Guess what, right? We're actually not going to see it quite as much here because once we have it started, we're only making one model this time. But we mirror, and there it is on the other side. Now, remember, there's 2 things I like to usually turn on for this. Clipping, right there for the mirror modifier, and that little triangle right there, right? Because it lets you kind of see the full effect on both sides, right? See how you can't really see it selected or the wireframe on the other side? That's really what the triangle does, is it lets you kind of see the full selection on both sides. Clipping lets it kind of keep these center polygons welded together or welds them together when they get close enough. It's quite neat. So mirror modifier. We've done that before. Now, remember there was a new modifier that we talked about before, right? And remember, you're going to need to turn on industry compatible if you want the normal navigation stuff, right? Edit preferences, key map. Make sure industry compatible's on, otherwise your normal navigation stuff won't work. But there are more modifiers than mirror, right? All this week is actually going to be a lot of review lecture of this, so we'll get a new lecture today. We'll take a little further later in the week, but we're going to do a lot of review lecture of this for the next couple days because getting a good start on this matters tons. So we go to add modifier again because there's more modifiers in here. Further down is something called subdivision surface. Wasn't really appropriate for our room stuff. That's why we didn't use it on our furniture, right? When you're dealing with very geometric stuff, chairs, tables, buildings, honestly, non-subdivision surface stuff, put some bevels on things, works well. But this is going to have a lot of rounded, curved surfaces, even though it's technically a hard surface. And subdivision surface can give us some cool benefits for that. So you can see the moment I turn subdivision surface on, and remember, edit preferences, go to key map, turn industry compatible on, right, for your navigation. Otherwise, stuff might work weird, right? If you're noticing your quick keys aren't working, you have to go to the Blender Preferences key map, switch to industry compatible, right? So when I have the subdivision surface modifier on, we can see that what it's doing is it's actually keeping the original low resolution mesh, right? So you see the original cylinder still there, but there's kind of a second version that's been subdivided, right? Each polygon has been divided into 4 smaller polygons, and it kind of averages the positions of the vertices at the corners to create this rounded form. Now, it's annoying to actually have to select the control cage version. That's once again where I like the triangle. See, if we turn the triangle on, you see how you can kind of still select the same polygon, but it's actually directly on the surface now. You'll notice that the order for this does matter somewhat. You should have your mirror first, then your subdivision surface below it. So you can actually have multiple modifiers applied to your mesh at the same time. Now, I don't like that kind of faceted shading this is getting. So I can go back to 4 for object mode. Right-click, shade smooth, right? We've seen this before. And that just gives us smooth shading on this. And now I can go back to something like, say, 2 or 3. Now, in this case, I'm not going to do much to those yet because I just want to show you the clipping feature there a little bit and extrude border edge. So what I could do is I could go in here and I need to delete some polygons to create border edges, right? So if I go to 2 for edge mode, right now these edges are not border edges, right? This edge has 2 faces connected to it. If I was to extrude that edge, it would create 3 faces connected to an edge, which is non-manifold. And that causes all kinds of problems. Your subdivision surface modifier will look weird there. Loop cut won't work in that area. It's generally a problematic geometry type, non-manifold. So to properly extrude these out, we need these to be border edges, which means they need to be only one edge connected to a face. So if I go to 3 for face mode, I can just, left click, shift left click just to grab a couple. And remember, there's lots of great quick keys like row and shortest path. We've seen those before. I'll talk about them later on, but keep it simple today. I only need to select 3. But I can grab a couple there and hit delete, right? And when you're in face, edge, or vertex mode, the delete menu gives you options. We want to delete faces. This now gives us, and we'll do an inset on this later on to fix this up. It'll still be fine for what we've got here. But this now creates a hole here. There's no polygons there. So if I go to 2 for edge mode, you will see that there are still 3 edges there. But you'll notice that these edges are only connected to one face. There's no polygon here anymore, or polygons. Those are border edges. You can extrude those, and they give you a whole plethora of new options for building shapes. So just your regular extrude tool. But you can extrude on more than just faces. You can extrude on border edges as well. So I'm just going to turn extrude on. Now remember, you have the yellow plus handle, but remember there's also the white circle. And we're going to see, particularly on the spaceship, that our view features are much more useful. So just like middle mouse button will do view move and view rotate, middle mouse button will do view extrusion. And you see how that creates new polygons there? And I can do another middle mouse button because extrude's still on, and I can extrude those. And I can do one more middle mouse button, and you'll notice as I move these towards the center, clipping on the mirror modifier takes over to merge those up. Once you understand clipping well enough, clipping is very, very cool in Blender. And now you can see that we've started to connect this up into a broader shape. I could grab this polygon or even these edges. They're still border edges. Control E for extrude, middle mouse button to kind of bring these back a little bit. Middle mouse button because that's view extrude. W for move. If I want, I could use middle mouse button for kind of view moving those. And I think that'll be a good place to stop. We're obviously going to do a lot more of this. We'll do some review lecture for it as well, but I wanted to just get you a good starting point before we do further stuff with it. All right, so I'm going to go to File, Save As, right? Probably a good idea to save your stuff on desktop. Maybe even create a folder on desktop, right? New folder there. I can call this, 3D modeling B_spaceship. I can double click on that folder and I can just call this spaceship, right? And remember, this is saving as a Blender file. But now I know where it's saved at. All right, I think that'll be a good place to stop recording.